Hey, hi everyone, this is Mukesh Otwani from learn-automation.com. So guys, in this video we are going to talk about another authentication part called cookies based authentication in RestAssured. So in the last two sessions or three sessions we discussed about the different kind of authentication and authorizations protocol we have. This is little interesting and very easy as well. So let's talk about what exactly we are going to cover in this video. First of all, since this complete topic is based on the cookies, so we'll talk about what is cookie. Then we'll talk about what is cookies based authentication, which application we can use in today's application or sorry in today's videos for demonstrating the same thing. And we are going to discuss about one cookie called JSession. So this is a separate Java session cookie which you will get. So we'll talk about this as well. And finally, how to implement cookies based authentication is trust assured. Okay, so this is done. What exactly is cookie? As the name says, it's a small, if you just try to relate this with a normal cookie which we take, right? So in HTTP cookie, it is nothing but a small piece of information that server will send you, okay, when you make certain request, or it comes whenever you make any browser calls. So in this example, we will send some information, okay, some payload, some request, and we'll get some cookies as well. So in simple words, cookies is nothing but a small piece of data that a server will send you to the user's web browsers. Now what exactly this cookie will do, once this cookie is stored, you can use for the different purposes. But in this example, we will use this cookie to maintain the sessions, login session. So if you in browsers we have the settings, right? We can say allow this cookies or not. So browser may store it or may not store it, but when you store it, okay, you can use this cookies information to the next API call or to the next request with the same server. Each cookie which you get, okay, each cookie will have some information like when it got created, what is the expiry, and other informations as well. Generally we use these cookies when we have to make subsequent calls, okay, you just have to maintain one session. So this is generally happens via cookie. So in simple words, last line, it mainly use when the just to cross check whether these two requests are coming from the same browser or not. So it will try to maintain a session. Now as the name says, cookies based authentication, we have to use cookies. So in cookies authentication, we use HTTP cookies to authenticate client request, and we will maintain the session informations. It is like easy process. Whenever you send a request to the server, okay, or in if you talk technically, when you send post request to the server with your details and some payload information, and if everything is validated, and once you are logged in successfully, server will send you set of informations which is nothing but the cookies. So this cookies will have the actual information about that particular session. So whenever you get some cookies, one of the cookie you will get JSession cookie. So that contain like cookies will have multiple information. First of all, cookies name, because each cookie will have the different unique name, values, expiry time, and some other information. So we will fetch few details from that cookies and we will use for the next session. So in this particular cookies based authentication video, I'm going to use one thing called JSession ID, that is actually the cookie name. We'll have to fetch the value and we have to make the next call. So example, yes, let's discuss in a few minutes. Now what is JSession ID cookie? As of now, just remember this word. I will show you live what exactly I mean by JSession ID cookie. As the name says, it's Java session ID. So whenever we work with any kind of J2EE applications, this particular cookie will be used for the session tracking. Okay, if you have any different kind of web applications which is not hosted on Java or not deployed by Java, definitely you'll get some different cookie that will be used for the different purposes and for session tracking as well. But when you work with pure Java applications, J2W applications, you will get this cookie session ID, which you can use for the session tracking as well. So let's quickly see how to use this and how to perform cookies based authentication in RestAssured. Guys, do not take this as a light topic, because it depends on which kind of API you're getting. If in case your API only supports cookies based authentication, then you don't have any other choice. You have to use this. But if your application support OAuth 1.0, 2.0 and normal authentication, you can use different techniques as well. But in your application, if it supports only cookies based authentication, definitely you should check this. Okay, so let's get started. So in order to demonstrate this particular example, I will be taking one application called Jira. Many people also call this as Jira. So I will continue with Jira. So if you already have Jira installed in your server, and if you already have effective Jira working in your company, definitely you can directly start calling the APIs and you can start using it. But let's assume that you don't have Jira installed in your system, or you want to start from the scratch. Then you can download Jira in the local system and you can start deploying. Since I am working with Docker, so in order to download Jira and install, I will just go ahead and say download Jira Docker, or maybe I can give Docker Jira. Let's see what we get. So you will get this. Let me close this mailbox. You'll get their official link where they have given 4 different options. So you can either use core, software, service desk. Okay, so for the time being I will only install the core part, because I just want to show you how exactly this concept works. So I don't need this server and service desk, only core is enough. So the difference between the complete software server and the core is, in core you can only create the task. In order to demonstrate this cookie based authentication, I just need Jira to be installed, so anyone will work for me. So I have just executed this command. Only the port number I have changed to 8086, because 8080 was already occupied for me. So I can show you. Let me just open my terminal. So you can see, just a second. I will type docker ps-a. So right now in my system, uh, can you see the first one, this container which is running Atlassian Jira? This is the command. It created 40 hours ago. It is up from 40 hours and it is running on my local host, and the port number is 8086. It means this Jira is already up and running in my system. So let me show you how it looks. So right now it is on localhost colon 8086, and this is the dashboard page. In case if you want to start from the scratch, just follow the documentation. Once you run the Docker image, it will ask you to create account. In case if you don't have account, then you need to create account, because it will give you access for 60 days. I have created an account, so I already logged in with my account, so you can see my profile, and with the same profile I already logged in. So this profile actually will get linked to your uh, Jira account, and you can also create sub accounts, plus you can also create users. So one is a main account that you need to create, and you also have to create one local admin user as well. That also I have already created, and username password also is very straightforward, Mukesh Otwani, and some random password I have given. So these two things you need. One is the main username password with actual account with Atlassian Jira, and one the local admin user. Perfect. Now once it is done, you can see you can create a new task. Let's say I want to create a task called manual test task. I'm just giving some random name. Who is the reporter? Here it is taking my username, due date, and these fields are actually not mandatory at all. And right now, since I'm using only the core part, you can see here I can only create tasks. But if you have the complete version, you can create bugs, you can create issues, you can create tasks, subtasks, and many other things. As of now, I have only one issue type called task. So if I click on create, it is creating one manual task for me. So this is manually, right? But what if I have to do this uh, through code or via automation? So Jira works completely on cookies based authentication. So in the last session we have already seen, let me show you just a second. So if you just search for OAuth 2.0 rest assured. So this part we already discussed. So we discussed how to handle OAuth 1.0, how to handle OAuth 2.0. So this is new authentication, cookies based authentication. So for this, as I said, we are using Jira or Jira. So now let's talk about some APIs. So let me show you. Just type Jira create issue API. This is the API which I want to use. So if you open this documentation, they have clearly mentioned how to create an issue in Jira. So if you just come down here, first of all, this is the complete endpoint which you have to use. And here you can see they have given complete URL, localhost, your port number and issue. This is the URL which we have to hit, and this is the payload which we have to send. So once you send this payload with this particular to this particular endpoint, it will create a bug for you or a task or anything which is mentioned here in the issue type. Okay, now in order to do that, first of all we also have to get the cookie. So we'll say Jira session cookie API, because you also need authentication, right? Because until and unless you will not pass the credentials, how it will identify that this request is coming from a valid user. So now they have already mentioned this page show you how to allow your REST client to authenticate themselves using cookies, and they also support basic authentication and OAuth, which we already covered. So let's see how we can use this cookies for authentication. Now they have already given the URL, the endpoint. We have to hit this endpoint. We have to pass the content type JSON and the username password. So guys, this is the username password which I have created locally. Okay, it's not the main account which I have with Atlassian Jira. It is the local user which I created while installing. So when you send this username password, you will get this payload back, and if you try to see this, we have session details. It gives you name and value. So name is J session ID and value is this. So we need this ID. Okay, so it will show you other information like failed login count, how many times you logged into this Jira using APIs, last failure, previous login time, and so on. We don't need this detail, we just need session detail. Once you get the session details, where you're making any request, you just need to include the session ID, which is JSession ID, and you will be authenticated to the Jira. Very easy process. Let me show you. So our first task that we need the JSession ID, then only we can pass this session ID to the different tests. So what we will do, first of all, let's create a small test or program which will simply create this particular JSession ID, and this we will be using. So this concept is known as chaining. You are sending one input, or sorry, you are sending one output, and that is behaving input for other API calls. So it is known as chaining. So let me just go back to Eclipse. We already have the setup, so I will directly go ahead and create a new package, and the package name I will give cookies based authentication. Cookies based, that's all. and the class name I will say create issues in Jira. This is the class name, and I will be using TestNG. So let me increase the font size. Yes. So first thing we need method. So public void create uh, j session id. This is what the method name is, and it is annotated with @test. Guys, they have already given a complete documentation. If you just follow the documentation itself, you will be able to handle this. So as we know that for rest assured, we need rest assured dot given, right? So when you say given, second thing which you need is the content type, right? So what is content type? It is actually part of our header. So first header which I have to add is the content type. So if you just type content type dot JSON, or you can also give key value pair where you have to give content type and you can mention application JSON. Both are valid. So in case if you don't want to go in this way, you need to provide the header in key value pair. So the key definitely will be the content type, and value will be application slash JSON. Now the next thing, we also have to provide, okay, now if you go back here, this is the URL, that's fine. Let me just copy this. Okay, we'll copy this. But first thing is JSON and second thing is the body. Now how you are going to pass this body? So guys, you can pass this body in a different way. Let me show you the easiest way. Whenever you have very basic payload like username, password which you have to send, I will always recommend you to use one thing called JSON object. Now JSON object is coming from a separate class which is coming from, sorry, it is coming from a different package altogether, org.json.simple. It is actually nothing but similar to map. If you remember what we covered in the map, it's a key value pair. So in a similar way, they have just provided like one more wrapper on top of map which also does the key value pair. So let's create object of this. So I will say JSON equal to new JSON object. Now as I said earlier, it is based on the map concept, so definitely you have to provide the key value here. So if you just type JSON dot, we have put where it will take again key and value. So one key value we will pass, another key value also we need to pass. So the first key value, the key will be definitely username, and the value will be, sorry, another key will be password. And the user which I created locally while installing is Mukesh Otwani, and password I have given abcd@1234. This is the password, and you cannot use this because it is in my system. So while creating, make sure you remember this username password, otherwise you have to create the fresh user. Awesome. So what exactly it is? It's a JSON object. You have added this two key value pair. Now whenever you have to pass this, when you say body, you can see you can pass as an object as well, right? So what we did, we created an object. Now same object I can pass. So if you see the example also they have given, let's assume that you have a message class, you created object, you added some message that you can pass. So similar way, I have created JSON object that I can pass here. So content type is done, body is done. Now finally we need to make a post call. Why we need to make a post call? Because first of all, if you see, they have already made it's a post call, and this is the main URL. But as we know, our Jira is running on localhost, so we need to just make a small change here. What is small change? First of all, it's a localhost, and second thing, it should go on 8086, and this Jira is also not required. So main URL is 8086, then rest auth 1 session. This is just the endpoint which they have given. Now we just need to make a call just to see what we are getting. So I will take the complete response in a response interface, and I will give RESP. Okay, so let's print couple of things. First of all, I will print get status code, which is mandatory, just want to check. Second thing, I want to check body. So I will say get body dot json path dot prettify. So it will print the JSON like body which is coming in JSON format. Now I am also interested in one more thing called cookies, because this is what our main topic. So I will say response dot get cookies. Can you see we have one method called get cookies and one is called get cookie. So when you say get cookie, you need to pass the exact key, then you will get the value. And if you say get cookies, it will return you all the keys values in a map. So let's print, let's see what it returns. So when you run a string test, okay, it failed. It says cannot serialized JSON object because the JSON is found in class file. Please put okay, so one of the library is missing which we need to add here. So let's check, do we have this or not? So I will open pom.xml. Just a second, let's add up, check the pom. Okay, we don't have actually. So let's search. Let's open this and mnrepository.com and let's search for Jackson. So it is Jackson data bind. Let's see the highest number of the one, which is 298. Let's copy this, go ahead to the POM and let's quickly make the changes. Okay, it's done, I guess. Okay, it's still building, let's wait. So it is not something related to our session and all. It is related to this JSON object which we have used. So it was missing one dependency. So we just add it. Let's see. Okay, so what it will do, it will return us all the cookies. Then our main task is that we need to find the JSession cookie which we will be using in the subsequent calls. So we also need another test which will use that cookie for the next operation. So let me create another method. Okay, it is still doing. Okay, so finally the downloading part is done. So guys, if you face this kind of issue, then you can also add this particular dependency which I added just now. So in order to work with JSON object, only one dependency was required, but since it is also it was asking us to download this JSON, so we also added this JSON library, and now we'll see how it is behaving. So I will give you this dependency name. You just search for JSON hyphen simple and this JSON hyphen data bind. So once it is done, now let's run the same test which we created, and let's verify the output. So now it is making such some calls. It will take few seconds and we are getting the output. Okay, so now let's see one by one. First of all, we were asking for the status code. Status code is 200, that's fine. Second thing, that we need JSON path. It means we need the complete output in a JSON format. So you can see this is the output which says session details, which is actually needed for us, session ID and the value. This value we have to pass as a cookie header to the different test. this is other information. Okay, and finally you can see the cookies. So it is actually giving us two cookies. Since I said get cookies, it will return you map, and it has two record. One record says XSRF token, okay, from Atlassian. This is the XSRF token. Second is JSession ID. So we need this JSession ID for the next call. So let's do one thing. We will say that I need get out of all cookies. I'm only expecting one cookie called JSession ID. This is what we need. Correct? And what I will do, I will create a variable. Let's say session ID, and I will assign. Why I'm taking as a global variable? Because I have to use this in the next call. And if you don't want to take a global variable, then it's fine. You can take it here, and we can continue our test just from this line itself. We don't need separate test. A session, sorry, in order to create a cookie, we need this particular payload, and we also need this content type, right? So let's do one thing. Again, we will create, or let's use the same code, RestAssured dot given. Now what we need, see guys, again we need the payload, we need your cookies, plus we also need uh, the content type, so which is also kind of a header. So first of all, let's take the content type. Now previously I showed you how you can add as a key value pair, but in case if you don't want to give as a key value pair in header, this is another way. So first of all, that we will take content type as JSON. Okay, we will send content type as a JSON. Then we also have to pass cookie. See guys, this cookie is mandatory, otherwise it will not be able to authenticate. And if you don't send the cookie, then it will give you that this user is not authenticated. So what is the cookie? So again we have to provide cookie in key value pair, right? So value is definitely this which is coming, and key is this JSession ID. So this will go as a cookie which will do our authentication task, right? Now finally we need the body. Now again we have seen how we can pass JSON object as a body, but this payload, if you see, it's not that easy or straightforward, that it actually includes nested objects as well, right? Because it has fields, then it has projects, then again it has two fields, and then again one more nested object. So whenever you have this kind of payload, you cannot use JSON object. You can use, but again it's a little tricky part. So again, whenever you have lengthy payload, this is very small payload guys, this is just like nothing. But when you have big payload with, let's say, 100, 200, even 1,000 line of payload, and in case if you want to send this as a payload, one options you can directly send as a JSON file, easiest way. But in many cases we don't suggest that. The best option is Pojo. That Pojo part we will discuss in the next video. For the time being, this is the payload which I need to send. Now if I directly send this payload, it is not going to okay, let me just ping you in the double quotes. Okay, it is not appropriate. Okay, first of all, because in double quotes again we have double close, so quotes. So again if you see, already Eclipse have added one forward slash, that it says skip character, so it will not consider this as a string, it will ignore this next part. So one option that you can directly do from Eclipse, but again in many Eclipse you will not get this feature. In case if you're not getting this kind of escape characters automatically, you need to use one tool, I will tell you, but for the time being it's already taken in my case. So the final thing which I need to make is the post call, and this post call is this, and I just need to change the port. Now one thing which you have to observe here is, in this payload we are saying the issue type is equal to bug, but the one which I have installed in my system, it will not allow you to create bug, it will only allow you to create task. So I'm just changing this issue type which we got from here from bug to task. So when you hit this, let's see what it will do. First of all, it will send that we are sending a JSON payload. Cookie is JSession ID. Session ID will be coming from the previous call. This is the payload. Again, I just copy pasted the payload. Automatically this escape character it has detected. In case if it is not detecting, I will show you. Now once you get this, you can store the response in a response variable, actual response, and let's print it. So I will say response dot get body dot json path dot prettify. It will print the actual output which is coming from API in a prettify format, or in simple word JSON format. Awesome. Okay, so now you can see what it says, this project is required. It means we did some mistakes because this call is working as expected. This is a status code. But if you see the output which is coming from the second API, it says project is required. Now I did a small mistake. I just copy pasted the payload, right? So in this payload, the key is equal to test. What is test? It is actually the project which you created. Okay, so let me show you. So now if you come back here, when you come to project, when you create a new project, you have to provide the project ID. Okay, so when you see this, let's say I'm creating REST assured API, or let's say Mukesh project. I'm giving any name, Mukesh project. Let's continue. Here I will give MUK. That's all. So this is the actual key which we need to provide. Okay, so let's say I created a new project, Mukesh project, and the key is MUK. This key I need to pass in my payload, then only it will understand in which project I have to create this task. Because if you come here, I have multiple projects. One is REST assured API new Mukesh project. So when you send the payload, definitely we need to tell in which project you have to create this task, right? So here I will just give the key called MUK. Now let's run this and see the output. This time it should give you the proper yes. So finally this is the response from the previous call, and this is the final response which we are getting from a new call. So it created a task which is this, ID is this, and the key is this. So if you want to see, you can see here. Okay, it says you don't have permission because we have a session running here. Okay, there's an issue which got created, and if you want to see the UI, then you can directly see what we have given. We just given some random description and this, right? So it is giving this kind of data. Let me hit this call again. So project is this, summary is this. I will give summary as this is created by REST assured. This is the summary. Description, I can give anything. Let me give a small description. and I will give that rest assured. That's all. So I'm just changing the summary and the description, and it should create another issue. Awesome. So it created another issue. If you go back to the UI and just come to Mukesh project, okay, you can see it created MUK2, which is just now we created. So guys, it's quite easy how you can create these issues, task, bug through APIs, right? You just need to understand how to handle this JSession cookie. And guys, one more thing, this cookies also have expiry date in the time validity. So make sure you create the token or session ID every time and use it. Do not create once and use it throughout the session. You can do that, but ideal way or suggested way, whenever you run your test, create a new session ID every time and use it. Now, as I mentioned that this payload which we just used, okay, sometimes this will not, when you copy paste in the Eclipse, it will not generate the proper payload for you. So if you just search that string to JSON converter, you will get some online tools. So you can see freeformatter.com. So where you just need to enter your, we can take this as well, but just say string to string JSON online. Yeah. So when you write the string, okay, and when you say escape, you will get the complete payload with escape characters. So whenever it say it identify the double quotes, it will also add one escape character, so that Java should ignore this double quote. It should not ignore, actually it should it will not consider this as a separate string. Okay, so just use this, and once you get this payload, this you can use, but again it's a very tedious task. You cannot do this every time, and when you have a dynamic payload, when you have a lengthy payload, you cannot do this. You need a Pojo for this. So next session I will take the similar example, same example, only thing is the thing which I'm passing right now, this is just a shortcut or not a professional way. In the next session we'll see how we can convert this into object and send it. So this is very important, guys, whenever we have very lengthy payload and the dynamic payload. So let's discuss the same in the next video. I hope you understood the complete concept, how it works. So in interviews also you will get this kind of questions, that how we can create a ticket in Jira whenever the test fails. This is the process. So you just need to get the status from the Selenium, that whenever the test pass or fails, it has to make a call to this API. If test pass, no issue has raised, but in case test fails, it should hit this API, it should get the summary description and task equal to bug, and automatically it will create a bug in Jira, and you will get the URL as well. Again, you can link this URL to some other test management tool as well. So if you know the APIs, you can play with it, you can do so many things. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this session. If yes, then let's continue with the next video, and please share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I'm coming with a lot of new content. So please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.